On today's episode, we're going to be visiting the locations of the original stations of the Pony Express that are most nearby Reno, Nevada. While there were some other smaller substations that were used as needed, these 12 stations we're going to visit were the most significant. So let's take a ride into history on the Reno You Know. Hello from St. Joseph, Missouri. My name is Steve, and today we are going to look at the Pony Express route as it came through our neck of the woods in northern Nevada. And you might be asking yourself, why are you in St. Joseph, Missouri? Well, this was the beginning of the Pony Express, the eastern terminus, if you will. And the building behind me is actually the livery here in St. Joe, where the horses and the mail and the riders would leave from, to ride across the country on horseback to deliver the mail almost 2,000 miles to Sacramento, California. And when the three guys that proposed this idea, the guys that set up the company and set up the relay stations across the country and purchased all the horses and hired the riders and the support personnel, when they first proposed this idea, they said, we're gonna deliver the mail on horseback between St. Joseph, Missouri and Sacramento, California, and we're going to do it in 10 days. People thought they were nuts. They said that's impossible. Well, it turned out to be possible, and it only lasted for 18 months, between 1860 and 1861. It only lasted for 18 months. So why is it that if you ask anybody in the country what was the Pony Express, they'll pretty much be able to tell you something about it. Why is that? Well, because what they did here was incredible and fantastic. And once the Pony Express got killed off by the telegraph, in 1861 the company went bankrupt. Once it went away, the notion of guys carrying the mail on horseback across the country, across the plains, over the Rocky Mountains and through the desert, and over the Sierra Nevada mountains, the whole notion of that kind of became part of the romantic lore of the American West. So let's take a look at the Pony Express route as it ran kind of close to Reno, here through northern Nevada on the Reno You Know. This is the National Pony Express Museum here in St. Joseph, which is actually set up in the old livery building of the Pony Express. Our mission in this video is to show you the locations of our stations and not to give you a complete history of the whole venture. There's plenty of resources on that, but I think it would help to provide some quick facts to put things in context. By 1860, over 500,000 people lived west of the Rocky Mountains, and they were demanding better communication with the East, especially because the Civil War was looming. The route stretched almost 2,000 miles from Missouri to California. The organizers and founders of the Pony Express, William Waddell, William Russell, and Alexander Majors, took 2 months to organize the whole thing in the winter of 1860. They purchased 400 horses and hired 200 riders, plus several hundred support staff. It took about 75 horses one way from Missouri to California. Riders would change at home stations after riding 75 to 100 miles and would change horses 8 to 10 times during that distance. So to facilitate covering these great distances, a series of stations were set up across the country about 9 to 15 miles apart. Life as a station employee was a challenge, especially in remote locations like those here in Nevada, which was Utah territory when the service started. There were no luxuries, you were dependent on others for supplies, the weather could be horrendous, there were threats of Indian attacks, and sometimes the stations didn't even have a roof or furniture. The Pony Express route breezed by our area in a large angle to the south. I've selected 12 of these station sites which can be reached in a reasonable time from Reno. So let's go take a look. All right, this is the Sand Springs Pony Express station. This is the first in the line of stations that go closest to Reno. And we'll travel these stations going from east to west. So from St. Joseph, Missouri, all the way to Sacramento. And this, I don't know if you see in the background, but there's a giant sand dune. Where is it? Yes, there it is, called Sand Mountain, creatively named Sand Mountain. This station was immediately adjacent, and it was built of this volcanic stone, which is just native to the area, so they used what they had. Interesting thing about this station, it was lost for many, many years, and it was rediscovered under the sand, under the blowing sand in 1976. And a crew of archaeologists from the University of Nevada, Reno came and kind of rehabbed the location and made signage and such, so it's very user-friendly. It's probably the most user-friendly station that we'll see today. You can actually walk around in the ruins of this station. They don't necessarily encourage you to do so, but there's signage in here. So let's go in. I came out here on a Saturday. I thought there would be more people out here, and I thought there would be ATVs just crawling all over Sand Mountain. I don't hear them, and I'm the only one here, so it's kind of quiet. But this building started, of course, as the Pony Express station, and once that got shut down by the telegraph company actually came and used this facility for many years. And it was also a stage station, and I think a couple of prospectors lived here for a period of time as well. Apparently this room and the room next door were the living areas for the employees of the Pony Express, and this was a miserable existence. There were no roofs here. There was not a roof. There were no chairs. Sand would blow in all the time. There were hostile Indians nearby and nasty weather. Just not, wouldn't be my dream job. One of the cool things about these remote stations is, although they are in ruins, you can stand at the entrance and see exactly, almost exactly, what these guys would have seen in 1860 and 1861. All right, let's head out and see if we can find the next station, the Carson Sink Station. All right, this station is going to be the big question mark, the Carson Sink Station. All the other stations that we're going to visit on this episode, I've pretty much found out how to get there with Google and such. But this one, again, is a question mark. I haven't found any good, concise directions. All I really know is it's 14 miles south of Fallon, Nevada on Highway 95 and about a mile west of Highway 95. And the reports of the roads that I've read, they're sketchy, and I don't want to risk it even if I have a Jeep. So I'm parked back up there on Highway 95, and I've found a gate that a bicycle adventurist used, that he used when he found the remains of the station, if there are any remains. So I found his gate. I'm going to open it and just trudge off into the desert about a mile, and cross your fingers that we find this. This kind of looks like a trail of some sort. One thing I am going to look out for big time on this walk is rattlesnakes. All right, crud. Online I found two possible locations for the Carson Sink Station, and I cannot find the first possible location. I'm going to have to give up on this one and walk about another mile to the other supposed location. Wish me luck. No luck yet. I'm scanning the horizon for the markers I'm supposed to see and also scanning for snakes. The way back will be easy. I don't know if you can see my Jeepy way out there, but I just have to go that direction. So let's keep keeping on. Man, you'd think a gate would lead to a road. I haven't discovered one yet. There's no trail, there's no road here, so I'm just crossing my fingers. All right, I see the markers I was looking for up here in the distance. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am shocked that I was able to find this. I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, literally, no trails, no maps, just a description from a guy or two online. So let's go check out this location. All right, here we go. Looks like one of the immigrant trail markers on the left, and actually two of them, and a Pony Express marker. The wind's really picking up out here, so hopefully you can still hear me. For these remote Pony Express stations, the builders were pretty much relegated to use materials that were available on hand. And for a station like this, that was pretty much desert dirt and water from a spring that was nearby. So they made this station out of adobe. And here's the remains of these today. They're kind of in an L shape, and they're slowly being reclaimed by the desert. If you ever decide to come out here and find this for yourself, just know that there's not a lot of physical reminders here anymore, other than the last remains of the adobe wall that we saw. A gentleman named Walt Mulcahy was one of the original members of the committee that installed these immigrant trail markers back in the early 70s, and I read online that in 1960 he came out here and he found the remains of about 4 buildings which were already deteriorating and slowly being reclaimed by the desert at that time. And I don't see any signs of those anymore myself today. All right, off to our next stops, which are Hooten Wells and Desert Station. And these are about 10 to 12 miles out into the middle of nowhere again on a bumpy dirt road. And full disclosure, I just started this drive. When I just started this drive, about a mile in, my check engine light goes on. Oh crap, do I keep going? Do I turn around? Well, I kept going. All right, this is the Hooten Wells station, which came after the Carson Sink station here in the beautiful desert of the state of Nevada. And you gotta love the outback to come out to places like this. This is about 10 miles down a fairly bumpy and sandy dirt road, which turns off just south of Buckland Station, where we are going to go next. Hooten Wells was probably used in the last few months of the Pony Express, and it's hard to know what the original buildings are, if there are any. This probably is one. The woodwork behind us is definitely modern. Some rancher is probably using it. There is some evidence of water and some whole tanks over there, so this definitely was a Wells. The adjacent station, which is probably a mile or two down this way, is called Desert Station. Apparently, from my research, it's on private property, and I discovered a gate that's closed, so I'm probably not going to go there because I don't want to get in trouble or get shot at or anything like that. But this is Hooten Wells. After looking over the whole area, I'm going to surmise that that stone building is original to the Pony Express station, and you can see the outline of a corral in rock off to the right, just kind of circling around. That's where they would have kept the reserve horses. And of course, all this these new wooden structures are modern and certainly don't date to the Pony Express days. Okay, perfect. Here comes a dust devil headed right at my Jeep. And of course, I left my windows down. This one might hurt. Since it's probably not prudent to head over to the desert station because of that locked gate in the private property, we'll just call this one station. And I'm pretty sure that historians considered it one station anyway, because at certain times they'd use the desert station a mile away, and then later they'd use this, and they might have alternated back and forth. Nobody's really sure. Oh, the heck with it. I'm gonna go for desert station. How often do I get out here, right? All right, there's a little short jag that takes you out from the one road on the map out to Desert Station. And I'm not sure of the pedigree of this road. And I'm kind of new to off-roading, so I'm not gonna chance it. I'm just gonna leave the Jeep up on the bigger road. And I'm gonna walk about a mile in here. All right, here it is, the remains of Desert Station, which is about a mile away from Hooten Wells. This is about as remote as the Carson Sink Station, but this one does have a little dirt road that leads up to it. Apparently this station wasn't used after August of 1861 when they moved the route slightly north. If you do want to come out here, I definitely recommend a four-wheel drive. The roads are a little sandy, if you want to call them roads. And what I did and what you could do, I really don't have crazy GPS, off-road, back-road software or apps or anything like that. I do my best to locate where the locations are, and I make a Google map and I drop a pin where they are as close as I can get. And then when I'm out here, actually, I can follow along on Google Maps and just negotiate my way to the pin. And that's how I found this. The Nevada desert is a beautiful place, especially at this time of year. I filmed this in early June. And also in the desert, we have dinosaurs. All right, I had to put the Jeep in four-wheel drive to get through some of these sandy parts, but now let's head off to our next couple stations, and these have more substantial structures than what we've just been seeing. A million billion years ago, most of Nevada was covered by an ancient sea called Lake Lahontan. And in this part of the desert, you can look in the hills and see the evidence of ancient shorelines. And you've got to just think that these riders going on the Pony Express had landmarks, and this certainly might have been one of them here on the left-hand side, letting them know that they were in a familiar place and going the right way. All right, after Desert Station and or Hooten Wells came Buckland Station, and this was a very famous place on the old early immigrant road. Sam Buckland was a California gold rush pioneer who later drove many head of cattle over here to this location on the Carson River and set up Buckland Station, which was kind of a trading post and a watering hole for people on the old road. And the Pony Express, we've got a truck coming! The Pony Express people went to him and arranged for this to be a Pony Express stop. And so it became to be. And after Fort Churchill, which is up the road just a mile or so, was completed in 1860 in response to the Paiute Indian Wars, which I documented on a previous episode. Once the fort was completed, Pony Express operations moved over to Fort Churchill. When Fort Churchill was abandoned by the U.S. Army in 1869, Sam Buckland bought up a number of the old buildings and brought the materials down the road to his station and built this building, which endures to this day. It's kind of a testament to his building skills and the strength of those old materials. Here we are at Fort Churchill State Historic Park, which contains the ruins of Fort Churchill, which were built in 1860 in response to the Paiute War, which was going on at that time. I did an episode on that. I'll put a link in the description. And so this was completed in 1860, and after this was completed, this became the stop for the Pony Express, which used to be at Buckland Station just down the road, but once this fort was completed, they moved the operations here, and the building behind me was the headquarters, or the Commandant's office, and this served as the Pony Express station for the duration of the Pony Express. And the telegraph lines ran from the West Coast all the way out here to Fort Churchill, and for a number of years they stopped here. This was the end of the telegraph line. And when important news needed to be communicated from the east to the West Coast as fast as possible, including the inauguration of President Lincoln, the riders would arrive here and the important news would be telegraphed off to the West Coast. There is a cemetery here at Fort Churchill, and while most of the enlisted men and officers that died at Fort Churchill were later reinterred in Carson City, this cemetery does contain the remains of Sam Buckland and his wife Eliza and several of their children. They had 9 children, and only 3 of them survived into adulthood. Sam and Eliza were married in 1860, and they both passed away in the year of 1884. All right, we're going to head out of Fort Churchill on the old Fort Churchill Road, which is a dirt and gravel road that runs all the way into Dayton, Nevada. Full disclosure, I've never taken this road before. I've always wanted to, but I really never had the right vehicle until recently. It's really beautiful back there. It winds right along the Carson River, and I can just imagine in fall when all these cottonwoods turn colors. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back in October or so. There's a lot of private property signs and fencing and such, but it's still a beautiful drive. If you ever like to take that road out there, I've seen I passed passenger cars going on it. It's just bumpy and such. It's not treacherous at all. So try it out. All right, this is the approximate location of Miller's Station. After leaving Fort Churchill, the riders would follow down Carson River and reach about here, which today is on the old Fort Churchill Road. And there's nothing left today. This is private property behind me, and the building was torn down long ago and the lumber used for other purposes. But this is about where it was, and from here they would head off towards Dayton, Nevada. All right, now just leaving the site of Miller's Station. It's about 96 degrees out here, kind of toasty. And as I was pulling out, there was a guy on the property here. He came over and said, "Hey, what you doing? What you photographing?" I told him the truth, what I always do. Out here filming a YouTube episode on the Pony Express, and one of the stations was across the way there, so he was fine with that. You might get asked what you're doing if you make YouTube videos even here in the middle of nowhere. One site that's pretty fun in our area, sometimes outside of the city limits and sometimes even in the city limits, are wild horses. We have wild horses. And I don't know, maybe these are some of the descendants of our stars of this episode. Just yesterday, I gave a presentation to the Trails West organization, and a gentleman named Glenn came up to me. He said, "Hey, I'd like to invite you out to Dayton. I can show you some really cool things regarding the Pony Express station. It's kind of on my property. So take a look at this." Hey, Glenn, glad to see you. I met you only yesterday at the convention yesterday for Trails West. And you had mentioned that you have a place in Dayton, and it happens to be this place, the Union Hotel. My gosh, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my wife and I, before we got married, we both had the dream of restoring a house. And I was thinking arts and crafts bungalow someplace.
Oh, I love it.
But this one appeared for sale, and it's like, oh, it had been on and off the market since 2000. And it had been a drug house and a squatter's house and a hoarder's stash, all sorts of good things. And so we got it for a song and put a whole lot of money and time into it, and this is what we have now.
Perfect. And you live here? It's no longer a hotel?
That is correct.
Perfect.
We do have 2 guest rooms, but those are for friends and family. We attract them here instead of spending gas to go visit them in California.
Do you charge them full rate?
Oh, well, actually we have somebody who's staying this weekend who pays in whiskey, so.
Oh, hey, no, there's a paying customer right there.
Absolutely.
Super cool. And Dayton is also known as one of the filming locations of the Misfits, and I think I have a photograph of Marilyn Monroe passing right in front of this old building.
Yeah, she came right up Main Street in their convertible Cadillac and made the right-hand turn to the Odeon over there.
Perfect. I got to dig out that photograph again. All right, Glenn, what is this on the side of the building?
This is the old Pony Express building, and the roof was burned out in like 1866. So, but it's still standing there, and they built this green building in here, which that's originally a barber shop from 1890. This little other door here, I have no idea what it was, but it's connected to the barber shop now.
Wow.
But they just used the old original walls. And what I suspect is the original Pony Express had stone archways in the front.
Okay.
Which I've never seen.
So this would be the right wall, and the roof goes over, and then there was another wall on this side. Is that correct?
Well, it uses the hotel as the last wall.
Okay, I got
which you can see from the inside.
So, as I understand it, Glenn, there used to be a building or a couple of buildings right here in this space, but they're no longer here now. What happened there?
There was an arson who was looking for attention, and he shorted out the breaker box in the back, and that burned down the whole 3 buildings here. You had the Indian motorcycle repair shop here. There was a survey office, and then the Fox Hotel on the corner.
Oh my gosh.
And they're all gone.
Wow. But silver lining, it did expose this historic wall because this was all covered up before these.
That is correct.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So now you can see it. A lot of people didn't even know.
Yeah.
Because there used to be a little fence here that you'd peek over and you'd just see the end.
Just the little sliver of the rock wall. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, that is so cool. That's the original Pony Express station wall right here in the middle of Dayton. Very awesome. All right, Glenn, you've brought me into your Union Hotel here, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think you live in an old Pony Express station.
We do.
Oh my
this was originally the Overland Stage, and Pony Express used the building for their stop. There was another stop up the road, but it got attacked by natives, and they killed the station master there. So they moved it down the block to here.
Oh my
This is a little bit safer, right in the middle of town.
Right in the middle of town.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. And you've just kind of made this space your own. How amazing is this? And it's open to the sky. You can see where the old roof line was, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
the
gosh.
old beam pockets, and the beam pockets are also up there on the hotel side.
Okay.
And
It's all open to
this
the
was
sky. That's
originally,
great.
when we bought the place, it was full of trash.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, there were 4 black locust trees that I counted the rings when we cut them down. They probably started growing in like the 1940s. So they were volunteers, and they were threatening both the hotel wall and the Pony Express wall. So we got rid of those as quickly as possible.
Oh my gosh.
Back in the 1890s, there was a similar fire to the arson fire that we just had. And that fire traveled down the street, and the Pony Express wall stopped that fire as well.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, with our fire, they drug me out of bed at 10:30 at night, and I had the thought of grab my wallet when I'm sitting across the street, but I forgot the 2 other things that I needed: the cell phone and the bottle of bourbon.
Right.
And in the midst of this guy sits down next to me and starts bragging about calling in the fire, and I'm thinking, dude, you sound like the arson.
Yeah.
He was.
He was? Oh my gosh. Not very covert there, is
No.
it? Oh my gosh. Do you have any idea of what the layout of the Pony Express station was in this layout? Where the mailbag was handed off, or any of that? Is there any record of that?
Well, no, no records that we've seen. Now, I think they probably had horses in here because this gate was tall enough to ride a horse through at one time.
Oh yeah?
It had a sandstone lintel up there that started to decompose, so they put in this brick arch. And that was previous to my time.
Was there any stable foundations that anyone has found over the years?
No, not that I know of. It was just this room.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, and then the opposite wall ended next to this brick building, would that be correct? Yeah.
So they must have had pass-throughs, and you could tell these 2 windows were not to the outside because they have no iron brackets for the fire shutters.
I got you.
As you can see the fire shutters up there.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Super cool. Well, cool. And I'm so glad that you got to show me this, Glenn. You don't often get to step inside of a real Pony Express station, although it doesn't look like it anymore. You can still feel the vibrations, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Glenn. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
After leaving Dayton, the rider would go through the hills and drop down into Carson City, Nevada. Carson City, Nevada, the capital of the state. Nevada became a state in 1864, and Carson City was founded in 1858 and named after, of course, Kit Carson. And Carson City was a stop on the Pony Express. And you'd think a big town like this would have the building preserved with interpretive signs and such, but in actuality, nobody's exactly really sure where the location of the actual station was. Several written accounts that we found state that it was on the main street between today's 4th and 5th Streets. And back in 1860, when the Pony Express started, Carson City was pretty much a one-horse town, a small road and a hotel and an assay office and a couple of saloons, and that was about it. Some people might think that the old St. Charles Hotel here on Carson Street, which is now the Firkin and Fox Brewery restaurant, was the location of the Pony Express station, but that just wasn't the case because this building was built in 1862, and of course the Pony Express folded in 1861. There are some thoughts and reports that the stables and corral for the Pony Express were across the street from this location here on Carson Street. That property behind me now is part of the Nevada State Senate, which is getting some building and rehabbing done as we speak. If I were a betting man, I would say that the Pony Express station was probably on the east side of Carson Street here between 4th and 5th, especially because of the report that the stables and corral would have been right next door on the same side of the street across from the old St. Charles Hotel. All right, this is Mormon Station in Genoa, Nevada, and Genoa, Nevada claims to be the oldest non-native settlement in the state of Nevada, circa 1851. A group of Mormons in 1851 built a settlement here, a trading post, and people eventually started calling it Mormon Station. It was right on the Emigrant Trail, and after the Pony Express left Carson City, they would head south down towards this direction, and the actual station for the Pony Express was not here at the Mormon Station. It was actually at a small building just down the road. The little town of Genoa is situated in a really picturesque location, and it's well worth a visit. And because of all the historical significance that it has, the townsfolk there have erected probably more historical monuments per capita than any other place that I've seen in the state of Nevada. This old Pony Express plaque from 1961, the centennial of the Pony Express, states that the old Genoa station was just very close to this point. And this is right on Main Street, and this location is now the site of the Courthouse Museum. All right, this is Van Sickle Station, which is located between Genoa and the final stop on our tour in this video, Woodford's. Van Sickle Station was built by a Henry Van Sickle back in 1857 on the Emigrant Road, and provided services and had a store and a kitchen and I believe a hotel. And the old building survived until 1909, and that was all torn down. And then in the 1940s, a restoration program was started, and they built a huge old building, the one behind me, with a lot of the hand-hewn logs and rocks from the old station. I just spoke with a gal here at the station, and she said that the Van Sickle station wasn't a traditional standard station. This was just a horse exchange place. They didn't change the mail here. The riders just got on a new horse and kept on their way. And she says the building behind me, the back half of it, back in the Pony Express days, was used for a stable for the horses. There is a small set of ruins just across the street that I read online, and you can't believe everything that you read online, are the ruins of the original Pony Express station here at Van Sickle Station. I have no proof of that, but the romantic in me wants to believe that, so I'm just going to say these are the ruins of the old station. All right, from Van Sickle Station, we're heading south towards the last stop on my list of Pony Express stations that are accessible from Reno. We're headed towards Woodford's, California, which is at the base of the Carson Canyon. To get here, just turn on the old Pony Express Road. It's hard to miss, and there is a monument here. All right, this is the westernmost station that we're going to visit on this episode. This is in Woodford's, California, and just over the California state line. The Pony Express used this location only for the first 5 weeks of the operation in 1860, and they used this as a remount station where the rider would change a horse. And the monument behind me, which is actually mostly obscured by this car that decided to park right in front of it today, points to another monument right across the street, which is close to the location of Carey's Barn, which was used as the actual station. All right, here's that nice verdant marker right across the street here in Woodford's, put up by the Native Sons of the Golden West in 2001. Historic Woodford Station, the Eastern Sierra Gateway to the Goldfields of California, way station of the famed Pony Express, and entrance to Carson Pass on the Emigrant Trail to the Sacramento Valley. Beginning in 1849 with the building of the Sign of the Elephant Hotel by Daniel Woodford's, it was the first settlement in what is today Alpine County. In 1854, Willis P. Merrill opened a trading post in the area and later a hotel and store. All right, this is about all that's left in Woodford's, California. This old roadhouse, which is located on this piece of old road, which conveniently named the Old Pony Express Road. And from this point, the riders would head up into the Carson Canyon. And how fortunate for us, I've already done an episode on the Carson Canyon. I'll leave a link to that in the description of this video. They headed up Carson Canyon, up into Hope Valley, and continued their journey across the Sierra Nevada towards Sacramento. All right, we'd be remiss if we didn't bookend this episode at the western terminus of the Pony Express here in Old Sacramento, California. The building behind me, the Hastings building, is actually the end of the trail, the end of the Pony Express, and the mail would arrive here on horseback from St. Joseph, Missouri. It would also depart here on horseback to head back to St. Joseph, Missouri. This building was built in 1851 to 1852, and it's been here ever since. And the city of Sacramento has done a really good job here, especially with this commemorative statue that aims right at the old western end of the Pony Express. All right, we're going to wrap up this episode here at the Delta King, a riverboat right here on the Sacramento River. And today we're enjoying a solid ground Pilsner, a nice yummy Pilsner for a hot Central Valley day. Solid Ground is a local brewery. They tell me, I'm not familiar with it, but I'll take their word for it. It's pretty good. I filmed this episode in about three visits to the desert, 3 separate visits to cover them all there. It's quite a wide stretch of area. And I also had to make my way out to St. Joseph, Missouri, and also down here to Sacramento, California. So my only ask is, would you please subscribe? If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please click that little subscribe button. Just lets you know when new content is uploaded. And if you'd be so kind as to just click that little like button below. And if you want to learn more about the Pony Express, there's lots of resources. Several books have been written on it. There's, of course, the Wikipedia page. And you can read about writers like Billy Tate, who was only 14 years old when he was killed by Indians in Nevada. And Pony Bob Haslam, who held the record for the longest Pony Express ride, I believe it was 380 miles round trip. He had to bail out another rider that didn't want to go out during the Indian Wars. And Bronco Charlie Miller, who claimed to be the youngest rider at 11 years old. And he passed away in 1955 at 104 years old. So you can read about those guys and many others. So I, again, appreciate your time. And as Harold S. Smith Sr. of Harold's Club always said, I'm with you. Cheers.